Hello, everyone. Welcome to CFL Talk. I'm Candid Stanisci, and this is the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Sticks, Roku Sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me on CFL Talk is David Morassutti. David, how you going, sir?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's been an eventful few days, especially in the CFL world.
No kidding. We came into this program saying, okay, the big story is, and it's been that kind of week where there's a lot to talk about. And I guess if we start with how it should have been, we should be talking about the game between BC and of course Winnipeg, right? As the marquee game, right? And then other things happened in other games that kind of took away the marquee status. But let's start at the beginning, and we'll start with I guess week one or game one. Sorry, Calgary at Edmonton. I'm looking here and I'm looking at the score, and David, I'm feeling bad for Edmonton. Um, they have, I was looking at their lineup. I don't know about you, but I was looking at their lineup and I was looking at the injury report, and I was noticing as usual. Oh my goodness, too bad he's hurt. But there are a lot of players on the injury report that, for some reason, in my mind, I think they could help the team, and he doesn't. And Chris Jones isn't dressing them.
hmm No, not really. It's a tough situation really to be in. Not an ideal one, especially for Chris Jones.
This has been for Edmonton. They, he inherited a quarterback.
Yeah.
He renegotiated with the quarterback, and that renegotiation, I guess, um, was the beginning of Arbuckle's understanding and everybody around him on the team, in the fan base, people outside Edmonton. We all got, at least I did anyway, and I felt a lot of other people could feel that Jones didn't want Arbuckle as his starting quarterback. He did everything he could to not say he was his starting quarterback.
Yeah, no, we've known that the Nick Arbuckle it was it was turning into a matter of when, not if, Nick Arbuckle was going to, lose his not only lose his job as a starting quarterback, but lose his place on the roster. Like we heard, going into this, when they started Trey Ford against Hamilton, I was like, wow, like they really don't want Nick Arbuckle to play. If they're throwing a rookie out against Hamilton, Chris Jones was rewarded for that, I guess, with the victory. And then this game happens. Trey Ford gets hurt. Nick Arbuckle doesn't exactly play well. I'll give Jones that. It's not like Nick Arbuckle was lighting it up and took him out for no reason. And then now we're hearing Taylor Cornelius is making his return to the starting job in Edmonton. Like just a weird situation there. And I mean, if you're in Edmonton, I do feel for the Elks fans because there was some hype about Chris Jones coming in, but you don't have a quarterback in this league. I mean, there's more of the issues than just the quarterback. But you don't have a quarterback in this league, you're gonna really struggle against the really good teams.
This is Chris Jones's team, and what we're seeing played in real time
Yeah.
is Chris Jones is going to decide who's going to play, how they're going to play, and more importantly, if they're going to play. And like I said, I looked at the lineup. I saw some names there that I wonder, why can't they help? Why aren't they on the field? Why aren't they getting a chance to play? I'm not talking about Duron Carter because he's hurt. He has a bit of a nagging injury, so he's not out. He couldn't play even if Jones wanted to put him out there. So there's other players. So for me, I don't know if what Chris Jones is trying to do is he's essentially committing to a set of players, committing to a plan that he has in his mind, one that I think is becoming clear as far as what that plan is. What isn't clear is whether everybody in Edmonton, whether it be the fans, the organization, the media, whether they think this plan's going to work. What we do know is if you go by results, and mostly everybody is results based, right? If you're the media and you're judging the Edmonton Elks and you're the local media, 49-6 is a team in trouble, a team that isn't very good. And there's no other way to slice that.
No, there really isn't, and that's something I think teams tend to overestimate, in my opinion. I don't know if that's just teams try to reinvent the wheel a little bit here. I don't know, but it's never really it hasn't changed. I don't know where people thought there was a change in that, but I don't think there has been.
This was a bad week for good games.
Yeah,
This was a bad week for good games. The best game of the week, there were only three. So, it
yeah.
wasn't the customary four games that we usually have in the Canadian Football League. And then when we have the short week situation, you might have five games. But in this case, there were three, not the normal four. And in two of the games, they were a bit of a rout. And the one game that was really good, of course, was the game that we're talking about, Saskatchewan and Ottawa. So, league has to figure out how to create balance within the league. This game here, I'm not trying to get off this. I'm just trying to put in context that not all the games are like this, but too many of them are, and they don't look good for the league. And I don't know, is there something in your mind that the league can do? Is there something that you know? We always talk about competitiveness, right? Being an asset for a league. So it's obvious that if you don't have that competitiveness from game to game, that can't be good for the league. And is this something hopefully that'll straighten itself out in your opinion?
Well, I think what the league tried to do with this management cap was to tell teams, look, have some sustainability within your front office, some continuity with your management, your coaching staff, so that like if you look at the teams that are the best in the West, Winnipeg, now Calgary, uh, I won't,
Saskatchewan the past couple of
yeah,
years.
Saskatchewan. I won't throw BC in there just yet because they have to kind of prove like this is they're only a few games into the season, but look at those teams. They have maintained continuity, not just with their GM, their coach, but also the quarterbacks, right? I personally think that you need to make you have it's so tough because it's hard to understand why exactly there is such a discrepancy in the play between the East and the West. I just think that trying to keep everybody on the same playing level, usually you think it would work, right? You see it in other leagues. I just think the one you don't put other teams at a disadvantage either, right? You know what? If a team makes a bad hire, they want to get out of it. I don't think they should be punished for it, and then
Mm.
they're stuck with it. You should let your teams kind of figure it out. Um, yeah, it's really I think it, and you look at it. We talk about attendance issues in the league. I think if you look at certain markets that struggle to draw fans in, it's also because they don't know what they're going to get week in, week out. At least in Winnipeg, if you're going on a Blue Bombers game, you're most likely expecting not only a good performance from your team, but most likely a victory because they've been able to deliver that. And I think it's that lack of consistency from a lot of these teams that has really done the CFL in a lot of ways. And I understand you're not every team's going to be good every week. It's not we're not talking about every team having to be 18-0. It's when you see Calgary beat Edmonton 49-6, Ottawa lose 28-13, and then it's now we thought we were getting really competitive, entertaining games. Teams are starting to kind of get into their groove, and the blowouts are happening.
It's not. It's you know. I don't look at it as east west. Not that it isn't that way.
Hmm.
What I'm concerned with is how many of the games for people who like watching more than their home team, right? That want to watch multiple games. Like myself, I like watching all the games.
Yeah.
I do my best to watch all of them. I could only watch the highlights of one of these games this week because of the internet issue. So my TV didn't work, and unfortunately, the plan that I'm on, or I can't, I can't play on demand. I can't play. I used to be able to. They don't have it anymore, where I can't watch a CFL game after it's been played. I have to go on the internet to do that. So it used to be on the TV. I could do that on the Rogers thing.
Hmm.
Not now, and I'm very disappointed in that. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Is that we have games that we're going to watch. They need to be good because people are going to watch them. This is another problem that I can't watch that game. Try as hard as I might on television, I can't watch that game. I have to go on the internet, go into TSN, hope that they have it available on demand on the internet, and that's a little more difficult to do. For some people, I'm one of them. So the games have to be good so that when people watch them, they're entertained by the Canadian Football League. The game between Calgary and Edmonton was not enjoyable. It was, if you really love the game of football, you had a chance to watch a young quarterback make a couple of really good plays, and you can see some hope for Edmonton in what a young quarterback they have can do, right? So it's important, I guess, to see the teams play well. So these kinds of games they stick, they stick, and they're not good. But Trey Ford was he had a couple of great plays, and I really liked what he did. Arbuckle wasn't terrible, but they don't want him there. And Jones didn't want him from the day he got there, and now he's gone to Ottawa, which is now an interesting move for him on the subject of Edmonton. They're sending him to where he went before he went to the Argos, before he had a chance to play for Ottawa. So we'll see if he's going to get a start this time as an Ottawa Red Black, because he didn't get a start last time. In fact, he didn't even. I don't even think they had training camp
Nope.
yet.
He didn't even, because the pandemic wiped out the only season he could have played in Ottawa. Then when it came around to saying, "All right, you are we doing this for this year?" and Ottawa's just like, "But not at the number you say you want." And he's like, "What? No, okay." And so they released him, and it never happened. It's I kind of I kind of thought about this myself. So it's so weird how things go in the CFL, and it really just also shows how big of a buy. I think it shows how big of a bind Ottawa is with the Jeremiah Mazzoli injury, which I will get into. But it also shows Ottawa isn't just going to punt on the season because they lost their starting quarterback.
Absolutely not. I know they're not going to. Ottawa, in our opinion and in many people's opinions, it became clear. Even though I don't care whether we were the first ones to talk about how great Ottawa was going to be, as soon as the new GM went there, I knew they were going to have a better team. I knew they were going to bring. I had a feeling they were going to bring Mazzoli, and I thought they might bring Banks as well. I know for a fact that Ottawa wants to win, and they got a new GM, and they've got a coach there in La Police who's serious. So they're going to get Arbuckle because he's the best out there right now.
Yeah.
And is he the best quarterback in the Canadian Football League? I don't know, not right now, but he could be real good. So Edmonton releases that quarterback, trades him after losing a game 49-6. Anything else about this game? Uh, I said at the after we saw training camp and after we saw the first exhibition game that Calgary played, and then they supported my thinking in the second game. This is a team that I like to define as playing angry, not mean, angry in the sense that they feel they're not respected to an extent that they deserve. And this goes right from Wally Buono right down to the water boy. Like the organization, Calgary has been one of the best organizations in the Canadian Football League over the past, if I said 10 years, would I be exaggerating?
No, not at all. I don't think you're off on that.
The best team in the past 10 years. Now, there's a new king in town known as Winnipeg, which is at the root of the anger I'm talking about with Calgary.
Hmm.
Because the next game, when those two teams play, that's going to be a game, folks. I hope it isn't a disappointment. I really don't think it'll be a disappointment. And the reason I say that, is because Calgary, who played real well, and who Bo Levi Mitchell, who's playing and not throwing interceptions, throwing touchdowns and not throwing interceptions. That's a key component for the success of the Calgary Stampeders. They're going to offer a different kind of competition for Winnipeg. This is an established team that hit the rocks a little bit over the past few years, right? But it's still the great organization that it's been for the past 10 years. We are really going to see a clash of the Titans between Calgary and Winnipeg. So,
It's
and they showed how easy they can win with Edmonton.
it's just so, you know what, like the first few weeks of the season, I think the CFL schedulers have really nailed it, right? Like in terms of matchups and all those things. And then like we're just like, oh, it's gonna be great to see what a young Nathan Rourke, who's on a roll, can do against the defending Grey Cup champs. And then that game happens, and it's like, you know what? Really want to know how Calgary and Winnipeg match up. And the CFL is like, well, have, if you look at the schedule, guys, it's coming up right next. Like it's really good that we're getting these early on. It'll be nice that it would have been nice to also get them later in the season too. But I think right now there's a lot of intrigue to how this season has started,
Absolutely.
and I think Calgary right now, yeah, you're definitely right. They're not just beating; they didn't just beat Edmonton. Everything they did was a statement. Everything they did was to show all those concerns. Like and look, you look at how they're doing it too, right? Rushing, they had 165 rushing yards. They had 305 yards through the air. They're not doing it just one way, and that's what makes Calgary scary. Because before the formula was let's try to stop Bo Levi Mitchell. Well, guess what? Now you got to worry about the other guys on that field. Carey again. He gave Edmonton so many problems. So I want to see, can Winnipeg go after the strengths of Calgary and make them weaknesses. And I think that's going to be the most intriguing. It's going to be the game of the week. It
Uh,
already is the game of the week in my opinion, but we'll see if it lives up to it.
and they don't play back-to-back games, but pretty close. I think it's the next, not this week, the week after that. The other games that I'm looking forward to, when we like to see the clash of the Titans at the end of the year, Winnipeg and Saskatchewan meet a couple of times at the end of the year. So, that's going to be interesting as well. Hopefully by then the Eastern Division will figure things out. I really think their start on the road, and then with the teams, the three teams that started on the road in the East, and then Toronto had the bye. I don't think that was a really great way for them to start. I think they were kind of handicapped because of that. Starting on the road in a season is, I don't know. To me, it contributes to the fact that you don't play as well as the other team that you're going to visit. Hopefully, I'm right, and if I am, the bad start that the East had, they'll recover a little bit. But I've always joked about the fact when the East is playing this badly, the East has the West right where they want them, because we know that Ottawa won the Grey Cup against Calgary, having not won more than they've lost. The Argos were 9-9 and won the Grey Cup. So the East has the West right. They're putting them to sleep, and Westerners know. They know. You guys, you're out there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're scared. It doesn't matter which one of you guys play. If the East survives into the Grey Cup, you know full well the East could win regardless of how good they were during the season. And I know that bothers you to no end. If there was only a way not to have to play that game, right? That's the way it is. So So as far as the Grey Cup's concerned, that we'll never guess. You can't assume who's going to win in that game. It doesn't matter. Records don't matter. But what does matter is how a team plays. And right now, if you want to talk about the East and the way they play, Toronto's playing well and not well. Ottawa's playing well and not well. And then when they were playing well, it was when their quarterback was in and doing a good job. Ottawa has shown their defense is pretty consistent. They're just trying, with Mazzoli, they've got a decent offense. Montreal just fired their coach a couple of games into the season, and Hamilton's trying to find themselves. So, the East is teetering a little bit.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Like if you're I this is probably also part of the reason why Montreal went the route they did. They kind of thought we had an opportunity here, really take advantage of the rest of the East not being good, and it didn't happen. So they decided, you know what, might as well make the change now while the East is still up for grabs, right? Like if you're Toronto, if you're Montreal, and you're Ottawa, right now I can't put Hamilton there yet because of how so much they've struggled. Even Hamilton, though, you get a couple wins on your belt, you think you're back in it. So if I'm looking at like the East right now, I'm definitely saying to myself, we gotta pick it up a bit, and you know, it's so tough to figure out who's gonna come out of there now. Like I can't say for certain who is going to come out. It could very well be Hamilton because they could figure it out at the right time, and the other teams just I don't have the confidence right now to say this team can get it done because they haven't. Right? Toronto losses they've had have
It's
gone.
it's early in the season, but the crossovers are reality.
I am. That's probably the one thing I almost guarantee is I think there's a 90% chance we see the crossover because Calgary's been that good. Winnipeg's been that good. Saskatchewan's been that good. And who am I missing here? And
BC,
BC.
BC.
How can you not say BC when like right now you're saying right now BC should get in over Ottawa based on their start. That's why I think Ottawa and Hamilton have to be concerned here because you got to be better than that fourth team in the West. And I don't know if Ottawa and Hamilton can say that they can get better than BC
Or
right now.
even Toronto, or all of them, David.
Yeah,
None of them right now. Let's put it this way, though. I don't disagree with you 100%. But what I will say, I'll fine tune. BC is good enough that they could be the best team out of the East. They could cross over and have the best record if I qualify it this way. Can BC overcome what happened to them against Winnipeg and not have that become a trend? In other words, can a decent defense make the offense of BC not as good, including Rourke? Because he's like the pitcher, in the fourth or fifth inning, right? Uh, the hitters get to know who he is. Now there's a book being released on Rourke. I'm really high on the kid, right? I think the world of the guy, but also as he plays, there's going to be film on him, and that film might give away some stuff. But what I got to tell you is the three passes he made in that game were incredible,
yeah,
long, accurate, and he had receivers that went and got the ball. So, that's what the East is up against. You're up against a really good quarterback with a good set of receivers and a decent offense and a pretty good defense. That's what the East teams have to provide if they want to come out of the East. And right now, I think we agree at this point in time, nobody in the East is playing better than BC at
no,
this time.
no, not right now. And I think a lot of teams in the East would agree with that just because of what's happened. Like we're not speaking as if we don't like look at what's happened. Look at the games that have been
Without
played.
hope. We're taking a snapshot. This is a snapshot. This is not, we're not saying there's no hope. Argos are gonna no good. Montreal, Ottawa, Hamilton, none of them have. No, 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 no. Just talking about this very moment. A team like Ottawa that was looking really good was because of their quarterback, who now is out 10 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks. And then you've got Hamilton, who's trying to find. Like I said, I'm repeating myself. Go ahead. The point is, BC right now is in a better place than the four Eastern teams.
Yeah, they because BC decided, you know what, we need to make a complete change. We need to do things differently. They did, and they're paying, and it's working. I look at the East teams. There really isn't a team that's decided, you know what, we need to make drastic changes because what we've done hasn't been good enough. They've kind of been okay with it, with what's happened. They're trying. I understand you don't want to be making changes for the sake of making changes, but look at what the West has done. Look at, I mean, Calgary. In a way, they didn't make big changes. They stuck to what they did, but they made tweaks.
Absolutely.
Um, BC again, I'll say they made the big changes. Winnipeg decided years ago they needed to make a big change, and it's worked for them, and they've kept to it, and they've worked on it. So I think the East,
Figured
they're
out
kind
how to massage the cap too, right?
yeah, well, exactly right. So I think right now, if you're, I don't want to sound like as if the East has no chance this year.
No,
'Cause it's very early in the season. We haven't even hit a third of the way through. But at some point, there has to be a reality check going on with these teams.
I think on the hopeful side, Hamilton has a quarterback who is injured at this point, Evans, who came into this season wanting to prove something. And I think he tried really, really hard. And I think maybe tried a little too hard, and maybe he didn't have the guys that could elevate themselves to the level that he wanted to play, that he was trying to play. And so we saw in those games, those early games, Dane Evans was doing okay, but unfortunately receivers didn't catch balls, they tipped balls. He had a couple of interceptions, and unfortunately interception shows up on the quarterback statistic, right? And they're not ball security is what it's like for me. So that ball security is really important, and he suffered a lack of ball security. His inability to hang on to the ball, the inability of his receivers to hang on to the ball. They're playing terribly offensively, Hamilton. Horribly for them, horribly. But they made a lot of changes. They lost a lot of players. They they really are, you talk about rebuilding, and I don't think you're saying that Hamilton didn't rebuild. You just haven't seen evidence of the rebuild, the positive side of the rebuild.
Yeah.
Like you see it with BC, right? You see it clearly with BC. You see they brought in some receivers that nobody knows, receivers that people know, and a quarterback that's doing a job, and it all looks great. It looks like it's working. You're seeing it happen. People in Hamilton aren't seeing it happen, right? And I think that team. In fact, I know that team's better than the way they're playing.
Mhm. So we have some breaking news. We were waiting for this news. The CFL suspension for Garrett Marino from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The CFL didn't make one suspension; they made three, and the three suspensions
Two, I bet.
total 4 games. So we have, this is how the CFL has outlined it: a 2 game suspension for Marino's dangerous and reckless low hit on quarterback Jeremiah Mazzoli, which resulted in a serious injury and Marino's ejection from the game and his subsequent celebration. So the hit got him 2 games, and the celebrating of the hit got him 2 games. 1 game suspension for verbal comments Marino made about Mazzoli's heritage during the game, which clearly violates our code of conduct. 1 game. And a 1 game suspension for Marino's illegal and reckless tackle of an Ottawa offensive lineman on a previous play.
Absolutely.
Everybody everybody was calling for a season-long suspension.
I'm one of them.
This here, I don't know if this is just because of what the code of conduct has outlined. I'm sorry, but if somebody makes a verbal comment about somebody's heritage and it's been noted, they said that it's
They
only
have
one
they
game.
have proof. They're confirming they know it.
Yeah, one game. Are you kidding me? Oh man, this just right now. uh, if I'm Jeremiah Mazzoli is now sitting 10 to 12 weeks waiting to get back, see if he will be able to get back on field at some point this year. I'm sitting there saying, "Gee, the CFL really, really has my back."
Yeah. And if your players, but can I put an assumption in here? I'm going to assume something, and it's only an assumption, David, because I don't have any evidence to support what I'm saying. I'm reading this thing and I'm not seeing any comment. I'm waiting to hear from the CFLPA. I just wonder, and I believe it's quite possible that the Canadian Football League discussed this suspension, this package of suspended games. I believe the CFLPA was involved. And if they were involved, one thing we know about player associations in sports, not just the Canadian Football League,
Mhm.
it always comes down to caring about the player who's either being taken out of the league or paying the fine that they care about. It always looks like they don't really care about the player who's been injured.
Yeah,
They could have been talked down. The CFL could have been talked down. The CFL probably couldn't have given any more. They should have anyway, and let the CFLPA
fight it.
do their thing, fight it. That's what they should have done. That's where I agree with you. And I think they should have done that. They should have called the CFLPA out on it. This reflects a reasonable um, suspension package based on the way the CFLPA would look at this situation. I don't think the league should look at it the way the PA looks at it. They should take the higher road, which is why you're upset. I know why you're upset. I can feel it. Is that you got a player now who's 10 to 12 games out for the season. And this guy gets 4 games, a guy who celebrated the act and the result of that act on the way off the field. To me, that I don't know how that doesn't. I didn't see anything there. I didn't see anything there about the a suspension on that kind of behavior. Let me ask you a question, David. The league has a penalty for taunting, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And isn't that equal to taunting what he was doing?
It was 100% taunting.
So why was there no punishment for taunting? I
Well,
didn't see it. I don't
because
see
he
it.
was already ejected from the game.
But not for he wasn't ejected for taunting. He wasn't
Oh,
penalized for taunting. We've got here a 2-game suspension for dangerous and reckless play, a 1-game suspension for verbal comments that he made, right? And a 1-game suspension for another incident that happened around the same time, a reckless tackle on an offensive lineman. But I don't see anything here for the kind of conduct that any kind of suspension for the kind of conduct that he displayed on the way off the field. I don't understand how this is a league that has put its foot down, in fact, both feet down when it comes to taunting, where you can't even shake your finger at a player after pulling them down. You understand what I'm saying? Yet this guy's celebrating because Mazzoli's on the ground and can't get up. I don't get it. I'm very disappointed in this decision by the Canadian Football League.
I'll add this. This is a comment from Randy Ambrosi. This behavior has no place in our league. This discipline is intended to send a strong message that it will not be tolerated.
That wasn't. It's not a strong message.
A strong message.
It's not a strong
A
message.
strong message.
It,
Come on.
it's
The
not a
said
strong.
words Chris Edwards was given 6 games initially for what happened after that Hamilton game. That's a message. Okay, and he that got talked down. That got brought down to 3 games, but they initially gave him 6 games, a total of 4 games for intentionally injuring someone, discussing their heritage, which we all know what they really meant by that, and another game for another legal hit.
But
And
nothing for exiting the stadium in the manner that he did.
no, it this does nothing to curb the behavior. What will send the bigger message, in my opinion, if I'm Saskatchewan, all right, 4 games, but you know what? Is it worth it for Saskatchewan? Is he that good of a player that you'll continue to have him on your roster?
There's in sports, there are, David, there are players. I'll say a phrase. I'll say a phrase. We love that guy, and then the opposite team, that guy's disgusting. He shouldn't be playing in the league. How many times have we heard those two things? Where you get a team of a guy who plays, I'll say it, dirty. I'm not saying, well, this was a dirty play, but you've got when your guy's the dirty guy, you love him. When the other team looks at that guy, they don't love him. The opposite is true. But this is the thing about sports. My bully is okay. He's okay. That's just the way it is in sports. Not every Saskatchewan fan, and I can assure you, because I saw many of them, were upset with what he did. All right. They were upset with what he did. Many a Saskatchewan fan.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a few. There are a few, and there were a few, and in the stands, obviously, because that's what Bahar was talking about. And there are a few on the internet who are basically saying, grow up. This is a man sport. This is the way it works. This is the way you're supposed to play. You know. And I'm doing sarcasm here, but anyway.
That was another thing I wanted to mention. Kudos to Nate Bahar, and I hope he calls out the league again for this suspension. I think players need to finally realize that they need to have a voice and not just settle. If they truly think something is not right, voice your opinion on it. You know what?
Oh boy, David, the Players Association. I'm Do you think the Players Association is going to weigh in?
I think so.
And
I
I think
well,
that'll
it won't. Actually, no, I don't think they will because
they will, because they don't want to get involved with adding to any kind of putting down
hmm,
Reno. That again, PAs around sports do not only concern themselves with the money a player is going to lose, or the opportunity to work. They don't really talk about, or in my opinion, okay, it's just my opinion. I'm not saying, I'm not judging jury here, but it doesn't seem, when it comes between a player who commits a foul and the victim, they always seem to side. It seems that they side with the guy committing the foul. In sports, that's what PAs do. I got some hair, so obviously I resisted pulling my hair out. But trust me, I'm ready to pull my hair out right now, because Mazzoli's important to this league. If a so-so player can get a 4-game suspension and make sure that, for all intents and purposes, the majority of a season is lost by a player, and all they're going to lose is a 4-game suspension, where's the motivation to stop that kind of behavior? Because there's a reward here. The reward is that the other team lost a really good player. You took a player off the field for 10, 12 games. I'm infuriated. My heart bleeds for the Red Blacks, the organization, the fans, who must feel like the league doesn't care. And that's how they're going to feel, and you can't blame them. And
I
and it,
how can you blame fans if they feel like the league just is satisfied with something like this?
everything we've talked about till now, before that we discuss this, what have we been talking about? teams have one thing and one thing alone. If they don't have a history of greatness, a recent history of greatness, like Saskatchewan, Calgary, Winnipeg, all they've got is hope for the future. That Ottawa, in my mind, is the poster boy for what hope teams that have been downtrodden in the league. This is a team that had hope. And the biggest reason they had hope, David, was because of number 8.
It, it, it just feels like we're gonna have another quarterback get hurt.
Have enough quarterbacks.
Yeah, like this is a league where one position, like what's been the biggest story of the CFL this season?
Oh, like,
Nathan Rourke.
yeah,
Imagine if that was Nathan Rourke, and that's what the league decides: 4 games, while your biggest marketing tool, the biggest player you can market, would be out for a long period of time. I guarantee this in the NFL, a hit like that and a thing like that on a quarterback, I don't think that goes over lightly.
I'm disappointed. I am truly disappointed. But on the same token, I understand what the league is trying to do. They're trying to have some sort of, they've set a level of punishment structure. I understand that, and I understand, they don't want to overreact. But I think this is one of those times when, in fearing overreacting, they in fact reacted not enough. This is not enough. 4 games is just, it's nothing. This is as I said, Ottawa's season now is, they're desperate now. They traded for a quarterback, Arbuckle.
Well, look at that. Ottawa had to now pay assets to go and get a quarterback.
And you know what though? Here's the thing that I hope for Ottawa, and I hope this for you Ottawa fans, and then for the organization. I hope Arbuckle is the guy that they originally got before he ended up in Toronto and then went to Edmonton. I hope he's the guy that proved in Calgary the prior year, right? Let's pretend this is last year. Arbuckle was in Calgary and he had that great year that he had. Hopefully, Ottawa ends up with that guy. We covered the Toronto Argonauts. Of course, we it's a team that we relate to. I relate to.
Yeah.
It's the team that I cover. Of course, I want the team that I cover to be successful. But you know what? More than my team being successful, I need the league to be successful, because no amount of success that my team has, the one that I cover, will be relevant if there aren't any other teams out there that create excitement and challenges for the team that I cover. And now Ottawa's got to hope that they get a guy who, up until now, in recent memory, has not been the quarterback people thought he might have been. Now, maybe with La Police pulling the strings, maybe, maybe Arbuckle will be a pretty good quarterback. And let's face it, do you know anybody, any other quarterback in pro football that's going to be more motivated than Arbuckle after what he went through in Edmonton?
Yeah.
Is there anybody?
I can't think of a quarterback who has more to prove right now than Nick Arbuckle.
And has the ability to go with it, because I think he has the ability.
I do too. I think, look, if you think that Nick Arbuckle was in the best situation in Edmonton and he should have counted his blessings, I'm sorry. That's not a position that I think he could have succeeded in, because
No,
he was never.
he was never the
Sometimes you,
quarterback.
sometimes you think, oh, it can light a fire under him, get him going. No, that's not what Chris Jones was trying to do. Chris Jones pretty much had the door open, was just looking for a reason to give him the boot.
Yeah. Well, it sure looks that way. Absolutely. I mean, it's
That's
not
like if
like
you
they were
that's
best
like
buddies.
if you you're starting with a company, a new boss comes in, he's not too fond of you, so you feel like you're walking on eggshells around him. You feel like, you forgot to put the like you forgot to replace the coffee in the coffee maker, you're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Like just a little thing could set it all off. I think that's what happened with Nick Arbuckle.
Yeah. He was, his days were numbered. The writing was on the wall. No doubt about that. I mean, the writing was on the wall before even the season started. The writing was on the wall before training camp.
Yeah.
And Jones was doing the Fajardo thing, right? But he was also talking about his quarterback. That wasn't lost on me. He might have been talking about Fajardo, but I think he was sending a message to his quarterback back then when that all started. I think that had a lot to do with with his quarterback. But anyway, look, hopefully Arbuckle can achieve the kind of success that we thought he could have after he left Calgary. And I want to make this clear. I'm a firm believer that the Canadian Football League doesn't need starters. The Canadian Football League needs stars. And one of them went down, and a player just lost 4 games for going. And in fact, really, he only went down for 2 games. He only got a 2-game suspension for what he did. The other stuff had nothing to do with the injury and what caused the injury.
Yeah.
You get that? Like, he got 2 games for the damage he did to that player in his career. And then he got 2 games for not being a very nice person and an iffy hit on an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
How do you equate those two things? Doesn't make sense. No matter how you turn it around, it just seems to, there should have been 3 or 4 games for that hit because it was intentional. And I guess they didn't find proof and or evidence to the fact that he went there to that game with the intention of doing something like that. That was Bahar's point.
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't. I hope they didn't find any evidence of that, because if they found evidence of that and this is all he got, oh no, I'm sorry. I hear what Bahar said, and I'm thinking about Mazzoli being a father, having 2 children, trying to have a career. This is a guy who he ended up with an injury. He dropped back in the pocket and he got one of those injuries with nobody around him. We've seen some terrible ways quarterbacks' careers have either ended or been delayed a lot, right? We saw it with Ricky Ray with the punctured lung. And we know that there are challenges to keeping Canadian Football League quarterbacks healthy. We've got a great quarterback right now in Bo Levi Mitchell, who's come back to be a great quarterback again. He has spent 2 years recovering from injuries, 2 seasons. And there was 1 year he didn't have to play, thank goodness. So that was a year where he could recover. In 19, he had time to recover.
Yeah.
He had a list of injuries that were problems for him. He's finally healthy. We got to figure out a way to keep our quarterbacks healthy. We need to figure out a way to find star quarterbacks and keep them healthy. Star quarterbacks, keep them healthy. It's what we have to do. And right now, I think this judgment fails in that regard.
Mm-hmm. No, I think so. I think the league sent the wrong message, and in everything that, especially nowadays, the message you send or don't send
Ugh.
is crucial, and that's what just happened right now at the CFL. It's the message they didn't send in this that now look, nobody's talking about the game. Nobody's talking about the fact that
Best
Saskatchewan.
game. That was the best game of the weekend, and you heard the TSN panel say it. This was a great game, but what are we talking about?
Yeah, and you know what? I'll give Ottawa a lot of credit in that game because I thought Saskatchewan was going to take it over, and constant chances to put up 7 points. No, 3 points. Oh, another 3 points. Like I'm just looking. How many did he have? Walker had made 3 of 4 field goals, and Fajardo had 2 touchdowns. I thought Saskatchewan was going to run away with it. then Ottawa's like, we're gonna every chance you kind of think you're gonna get 7, we're gonna make sure you get 3, and that kept Ottawa in the game. Like Saskatchewan did a great job of rushing the ball,
Oh, they were man,
controlling.
great team, great team.
It's
Um,
yeah, really good team. But the problem is,
this is amazing.
and I think Craig Dickinson said after the game, this win was tainted. The
Yeah,
head coaches usually say, you know what, we're gonna take the win
no comment.
because you have to. He said this win felt a bit tainted.
Yeah, usually that kind of incident is followed by no comment. The league's going to
Yeah.
deal with it, you know. But you're right. He came up with for me, an unexpected response. But I think that was to the level of why we're upset and why most people are upset and why Nate Bahar was upset. So, great team, Saskatchewan and their fans cannot be tainted by the behavior of this guy. Um, Even Nate Bahar's comment about basically talking about the fans, I think is a little unfair. The fans sometimes in situations it's not about the injury, it's about the sack. It's not about you know the injury, it's about putting yourselves in a position to win. That's what the fans want to do. But what I do know, and I repeat this, and I want to make sure people hear this, a lot of Saskatchewan fans didn't like the play and they felt their player should have been suspended. So I'm going to assume that the Saskatchewan fans are level headed and they do care about the players on the field. And I can tell you, they've had some bad luck with quarterbacks. The best quarterback in the Canadian Football League in the first game of the year lost his season. That's Zach Caleros. They went into Hamilton their first game. So
They've been on the other end of it. Yeah.
yeah, they understand what happens when a top quarterback gets hurt. They had a great quarterback that won a Grey Cup for them that got hurt and was never the same after his injuries and ended up retiring. So Saskatchewan fans understand as much as any team about how important a quarterback remaining upright matters.
Yeah. And there was a lot of pointing fingers at Saskatchewan fans because, as we said, they've been through this when Simone Lawrence hit Zach Claros, and they felt like, really, that's all you're going to give Simone Lawrence? Now Zach Claros might never play again. There was that discussion, and some people were saying, well, now look, the shoe's on the other foot, and you guys are. But I think in this situation, this is again where the CFL, instead of putting the onus on the player in his decision, now Saskatchewan fans are going to come to the aid of their team. They're going to defend their team because that's their right. And
Hmm.
it's going to create this unneeded civil, almost like war between fans that you don't need, but you're creating it because you don't want to do the thing that's going to keep the heat off of the league and off the team and off the fans.
Well, this to me reflects again. I'll try to stop beating a dead horse. This punishment doesn't respect the fact that quarterbacks, the importance of quarterbacks,
Yeah.
not only in the Canadian Football League as we know it historically, but at this time when there are so few great quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League. That to me is the problem. We don't have that many great quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League. And now we've lost one. One out of, I think, if I said he was no less than the fifth best quarterback in the Canadian Football League, would I be wrong?
No, I don't think so. Like you have Bo Levi Mitchell, Zach Claros, Cody Fajardo, Nathan Rourke, and I would say Jeremiah Mazzoli is.
Yeah. So, and he's a top five quarterback in a league with 9 teams.
Yeah.
He's not a great backup quarterback. He's not a quarterback that can be replaced that easily. And we know, and I wish I would feel as though quarterbacks are respected by the Canadian Football League, but this punishment doesn't reassure me that it is. that quarterbacks are important in the Canadian Football League, as far as the league is concerned. So, I, again, I repeat, it's not about the 4 games, because the 4 games is it kind of fools you. Like I said, it's only a 2-game suspension. It's
Yeah.
a 2-game suspension for the act that's got us upset. That has the world upset. A 2-game suspension. You can't tell me that precedent needed to be raised a little. They didn't raise the bar even 1 game. Not even 1 game for this. This is one of the worst hits that we've seen in the Canadian Football League for a long time. A
Yeah.
long time. And I know what the old quarterback said. This used to happen all the time in the league. Well, it's not supposed to happen anymore.
No. I think we'll end it on that note.
Yeah,
Jen,
it's disappointment, and it is, the way it is. All right, David, thanks for doing this. It was a lot of fun, buddy.
thank you.
Okay, he's David Morassutti. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching CFL Talk Aaron live Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For CFL Talk news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer here, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody.